is Friday, May 9th, and we welcome you back here on the Frozen Edge with Timo Seppa. I'm Casey Ditzel. Timo, what's happening this morning?
Not much. Rainy day here in Connecticut, but I'm excited to start talking about last night's games and tonight's games.
I've been elevated by the Jedi Council to the rank of Master as of last night. So from here forward, I'll be known as Master Ditzel. And I say that sarcastically. I'm chasing you, Timo. I got a couple PhDs left to go still.
I'm not the PhD yet, but I'm working on it. I got a couple masters though.
We'll start with Carolina and Washington last night. And just as we expected, Washington comes back, ties it up. You didn't get your props on the Tom Wilson mouth guard stealing, but certainly got the goal if you picked that one empty net goal for Tom Wilson. And he was an absolute force, just like we expected.
Yeah, Tom Wilson just loved his game last night. You know, he's a bit of a bully. He's a rat of a bully, but you obviously like him if he's on your team. I remember when he was drafted, mid first round guy, and he was looked at as kind of a unicorn coming out of the draft, but kind of like, okay, is he going to be a complete enough player to have first round value, but to bring those extra aspects? And I'm sure Washington overall feels like they've gotten the player that they drafted. But yeah, he was, hitting, blocking shots, diving to block shots in front of the goal. That reminds me of Jim Schoenfeld from way back when I used to watch the Sabres. And then just being an intimidating presence like he is. Okay, that's all the grit and the heart and wanting to win, but a nice power play primary assist to John Carlson for the game-winning goal. So he did it on the offensive end. Okay, he got the empty net goal, but that primary assist was huge. Nice play by Washington there on the power play. I think that was the first goal that Carolina gave up on the power play this playoffs. Is that true?
That is, yep, correct.
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that we happened last night, right, was the shots kind of turned around. Yeah, at the end of the game, you had Carolina leading in shots 28-21, but it was 14-11 Washington after two periods. So if you're an analytics guy like I am, you look at some stats being padded by what we call score effects. So if a team is leading in the third period, they tend to play defensively. Okay, they'll counterattack and have a big rush attempt and have a really high quality shot when they get a chance. But the other team is usually throwing a bunch of lower percentage shots at them, and they'll catch up on the shots. And that's what happened last night. But overall, Washington did a great job of keeping Carolina down on the shots.
Well, anybody who followed us and picked the Thompson saves over might have been holding their breath there. Carolina just 10 shots on goal. They got there eventually, 10 shots through the first 30 minutes. They got there eventually, though, finishing with 28. Logan Thompson, a stellar effort as he finishes with 27 saves. On the Edmonton Vegas side, it was a bit more of an exciting game as it went to overtime. The Stars shining in overtime. McDavid to Draisaitl. No changes there with the combination of success they've had. But Timo, you were more impressed with the depth scoring throughout this game.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the names on the score sheet before that game-winning goal. I mean, it's defensemen, it's secondary scorers. I mean, I'd call Evander Kane a secondary scorer at this point. Greasy goal that he put in there for, I believe, his third of the playoffs. So to me, Edmonton, they put up 5 goals, 4 in regulation, but that was all secondary scoring. So, for Vegas, they kept those big guys under wraps, but then, for me, a huge gaffe on that overtime goal. Bad kind of choice of Haig to jump up in the neutral zone. That put McDavid and Draisaitl against two players. One of them was Jack Eichel, who looked like a pylon there, trying to defend against them. He got easily bypassed, and then you had the 2-on-1 for cleanly executed game-winning goal. So, again, it was a better game from Vegas for me, but I found that they made those critical mistakes the same way, and that put them in the same position. Hey, if you like Vegas, if you picked Vegas, it wasn't a bad choice. I mean, they were iron away from winning this game in the third period. So it was that close, but Edmonton, they're up 2-0. They seem kind of inevitable at this point. I mean, stuff can change as you go through the playoffs, but boy, you got to be feeling good if you are an Edmonton supporter right now.
Couple inches of iron away, as well as a few inches of Cal Pickard's pads, a few outstanding saves in the overtime period to get Edmonton that win. And all of a sudden, Vegas has dug themselves a hole. They're down 2-0 heading back to Edmonton coming up over the weekend. On the Carolina side, just as we expected, the stats stay as Washington with 22 bounce back wins in the regular season. They come back and tie the series. So that's 1-1 heading to Carolina. And for the Hurricanes, I'm sure kind of a spot they don't mind being in. They got one on the road, and they're such a good home team. For Vegas, what we talked about yesterday, the tendency of stringing together losses, unfortunately for them, both of them come at home, certainly in trouble as they head on the road. Toronto and Florida, another series with a team heading home instead of, I guess, the opposite of Vegas, where Vegas is headed on the road. But Florida headed home. They are in trouble here. Down 2-0. The Leafs with back-to-back wins to kick this one off. And we liked Florida to start this series, Timo. Do you still like Florida? Do you still see that chance, even though it's 2-0? There hasn't been a team winning on the road. That's always the critique. It's not a series until the road team wins. Can Toronto get it done, or is Florida going to have that bounce back?
Yeah, I don't know that I put a whole lot of stock into that, but yeah, I mean, like yesterday when we looked at our picks for the two games, one of the reasons why we liked Washington was because they were 22-8 after losses, as you alluded to, and Vegas was only 18-14 after losses in the regular season. If we look at the same kind of stats for Florida's was 20-14 after a loss in the regular season, so kind of mid. So that does not give me as much confidence. Again, we looked at a lot of the factors. A lot of the analytics pointed toward Florida. We've had some analytics like face-off percentage that were strongly in favor of Toronto. But hey, you just look at the games in their entirety right now. Those are two close games. I mean, window dressing on the first game. I mean, but the second game certainly was a close game. I guess let's just, if we're looking for what Florida needs to do, I want to lean back on this, some of the stats that our friends at Stathletes, Megan and company gave us prior to the series. They highlighted the fact that Florida's game is dump and chase. They're the best team at executing that in the league. They were this year. So their game is dump and chase, forecheck, winning battles, and creating opportunities off that. They're basically the top team in the league for that. So Florida, yeah, their game is more than just that, but they need to have that click at least for part of their solution here in Game 3.
One glaring blemish so far that maybe was not expected is the goaltending for Florida. And they've lost 2 one-goal games, 4 goals in the 5-4 loss on Game 1. They had 3 goals in the 4-3 loss. And Sergei Bobrovsky through 2 games, 5 goals against in game one, an 833 save percentage, 4 goals against in game two, an 800 save percentage. That's their Stanley Cup winning ace from last year. What needs to turn around? Do you put this all on the goaltending?
It's a good point for you to bring that up. Hey, I said this, but at the very beginning, Bob's track record is hot and cold. I mean, so the fact that you're getting a cold Bob is not that surprising, but it's obviously goaltending is critical for any team. Now, just from what we saw in games 1 and 2, we saw that Bob let up a bunch of soft goals at the beginning of game one, but we thought that it was the defense that was more the culprit in game two. So what's that say? It says that Bob needs to be good and their defense needs to be good. Both of them need to give you a good game for Florida to have a good chance here.
Hard to find much value on the Florida Panthers here tonight. Looking at the game lines, Florida minus 245 on the money line, plus 108 on the spread at minus 1.5. Toronto with the 2-0 lead, plus 195. And on the plus 1.5 spread, minus 132 there. Timo, you wanted to look more on the player side and look at maybe the potential at some guys getting hot here. Maybe Matthews, who's been a star so far in the playoffs for the Leafs this season. Max Pacioretty, maybe the biggest surprise of the
Huge.
playoffs here, as he's come back to health, looking like he's coming back to form that, you know, Carolina expected before his second Achilles injury. The Leafs took a flyer on him, and all of a sudden he's been an impact player.
Max Pacioretty from New Canaan, Connecticut. I used to live in New Canaan, Connecticut. So, as a kid, and before he was born. So, yeah, no, he's been huge, right? I mean, like I'd say if you take him out of the lineup in games 1 and 2, I don't know which way those games go. He was that big. So I like how he's playing. If you got props on Pacioretty, I don't have any problem with going with that. I mean, Matthews on the other end, right, has been cold. So would you say that what kind of odds can you get on Matthews scoring? I mean, certainly if you want to be contrarian and say like he hasn't scored, he's due, or he's a good player. He's going to score. What kind of odds can you get on Matthews again?
Matthews plus 180 for game three, anytime goal. Pacioretty plus 195.
Yeah, I mean, like, and again, if you've got, if you think Toronto might have the lead, even if Matthews hasn't put in a goal, can he get an empty net goal? Maybe. You certainly can have that kind of scenario happen.
Austin Matthews does not have a point thus far in round two through 2 games in that series, both of those home games. He had 8 points, however, in the first series in round one through 6 games against the Ottawa Senators. That included the big game 6 goal that just about finished Ottawa off. Elsewhere around the Leafs, looking at the core 4, core 5, if you include Matthew Knies now, 2 goals and an assist for William Nylander so far. A couple assists for Pacioretty there, who we also hinted maybe a guy to look at in the props market as he heats up to try to pick up a goal. You could also look on the point side for that. Matthew Knies, a goal and an assist. Marner, a goal and an assist through 2 games in this series. John Tavares, also kind of up there with Matthews maybe for a breakout game here in game 3. He has 5 shots, no points. But the real glaring thing that sets this series apart, when you talk about the success, maybe Matthews being cold, maybe Tavares, but they've still been able to get points from their stars. Florida has not had the same. And you look at the top 5 scorers from the regular season, it was Reinhart with 81 points. Barkov had 71 points in 67 games played. Tkachuk 57 points in 52 games played. Verhaeghe had 53 points. Sam Bennett had 51 points. But so far in the series, and even in the playoffs for that matter, nobody with more than 6 points And in the series, Reinhart has no points thus far. Just one goal for Barkov that came in game two. Only one assist for Matthew Tkachuk from game one. Verhaeghe has a pair of assists. Both came in the first game, and Sam Bennett just one goal from the first game. Eetu Luostarinen is the leading point scorer on the Florida Panthers. That is an issue for Florida if they're going to try to find success. What does Florida need to do to get these top players going?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say yes and no on like what you said there. Yeah, they do need more from the top couple lines. That third line with Luostarinen and Brad Marchand and Lindell, is it? I mean, they were massive in the first round series, right? I mean, to me, that was one of the big stories there. And you know, if you're a coach and you're matching up against a top team, you might look at your top two lines. That yeah, of course you want them to score, but to shut down the other team's lines. And if you got a third line that's got a lot of punch, you don't feel bad if those guys are the ones helping you win. But yeah, as I said, of course you want the top guy scoring. By the way, fun fact, Luostarinen, and I have trouble saying the name in the English way. Fun fact, he's got all 5 vowels in his last name.
Picks for Florida and Toronto tonight. I'm going to take the 60-minute three-way Florida regulation victory, minus 155. A little bit more value there than that minus 245 number on the money line. Carter Verhaeghe, anytime goal, plus 220. Verhaeghe in the regular season this year, 20 goals. He does not have one so far in this series. He had 2 goals in the first series, none since the second game of round one. We'll see if he can get going tonight. And hopefully Florida, for their sake, can rely on the Stars a little bit. They need those 5 guys to get buzzing. On the other side, it's Winnipeg and Dallas on the late game for the slate. Dallas with a 1-0 series lead. Thank you to Mikko Rantanen. And in the words of Jeff Merrick, to Mikko Rantanen, the NHL is just like beer league. He has 15 points in the last 4 games, back-to-back hat tricks. What has made him all of a sudden click? He had trouble after the trade in Carolina and pointed to being pretty devastated, not wanting to play there. They trade him off. Didn't make much noise in the first few games of the first round, but all of a sudden, games 5 and on, he has been anything but noticeable.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers for this. We didn't dig into the stats for this, but it strikes me that like throughout his playoff career, he can go quiet for a while, but then he explodes. So I mean, like to me, this is who he is. I mean, he's a scorer. He's a big body. He's there's a lot to like, and it's obviously why he's going to be a top paid player. Yeah, just a big addition to this lineup. What can you say? He had 2 games in a row where not only he had hat tricks, but he had hat tricks in single periods. So, just obviously playing awesome right now.
8 goals in the last 4 games, and the market hasn't necessarily caught up to that. He's still 4th on the odds board. Anytime goal for Rantanen, plus 180 going into tonight. The game lines pretty close to a pick 'em here. Dallas just about even odds, plus 102. They're minus 250 on the spread at plus 1.5. For Winnipeg to come back, tie the series at home here, minus 122 on the money line, plus 198 on the spread at minus 1.5. The over-under set at 5.5. On the Winnipeg side, for some series or some player props, looking at their regular season leaders, Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele, excuse me, were the 2 big names there. Connor has 4 goals in 8 games this postseason, didn't score in game 1, so maybe a chance to look at him on home ice. Very strong is the Jets offense, plus 140 for a Connor goal. One that really stands out to me is Gabe Vilardi. He finished the regular season in the top 5 in scoring on this Jets offense that's so potent, skating on the top line with Connor and Scheifele, but just 1 point, and it came on an assist in the playoffs. Anytime point is minus 120 for Gabe Vilardi, and obviously much better odds if you pick him for the goal scorer, Timo. Is that something that you have your eyes on here? Do you think Winnipeg's going to be a candidate to bounce back in this one?
We looked at this. We figured that this is a really close series, and that it came down to goaltending. So, would I put my own money on it? I don't know which way I'd put my money on it here, but I think Winnipeg certainly. There's no reason why they couldn't.
Dallas got Jason Robertson back in game one. He played a little bit over 13 minutes, limited shifts for the Dallas Stars star forward. Miro Heiskanen sat out the game. Pete DeBoer, though, Wednesday morning saying he's close. We'll see on Friday morning. So that news probably soon to break. But either way, Heiskanen on track to come back. What spark do you see Miro Heiskanen bringing to this lineup in addition to the Stars upcoming setting a record with the most finished players in a lineup in one game? They'll have 5 when Heiskanen returns.
Yeah, that's amazing, and these aren't just like any Finnish players, right? If you talk about Heiskanen and Hintz and Rantanen, you're talking about 3 of the top players on the Finnish national team, three of the top players on any NHL team. So these are big players. That was a big hit for Finland in the Four Nations to have him out. So. Exciting to have 5 Finnish players in the same lineup. Dallas has a history of having big time Finnish players going back to their Cup years with Jerry Lehtinen, who was multiple time Selke winner there for Dallas in the late '90s, and he's the GM of Team Finland now. But they've had other notable Finnish players coming through there, like Jussi Jokinen, Antti Miettinen, and Kari Lehtinen in goal. So. History of a lot of good Finnish players in Dallas, and just like I think it's a location for Finnish players, and they're comfortable with Finnish players. So Heiskanen he's a big time defenseman if he can come back and give you some quality. I mean, I don't know what kind of shape he's coming back in. I assume if he's coming back, he is going to contribute. So. Another piece that you would think would make Dallas more formidable in the series.
We hit on it on Wednesday, but Winnipeg's success against Dallas in the regular season, winning 4-1, 4-1, 4-0. Dallas taking the 4th of those, 3-1. So none of those terribly close games, but the Jets seem to have switched over to more of a tight, maybe nerve-wracking fan style game where a lot of 1-goal wins. Just 1 overtime win, game 7, the lone game that went to OT for them. For Dallas, they had 2 overtime games against Colorado, games 2 and game 3, plus 380 on the 60-minute line to pick this game to go to overtime. Is that something that maybe we could foresee a tight checking game, or do you think somebody's going to get the advantage, blow this one open?
Assuming that Connor Hellebuyck keeps it together, that everything's together between his ears. There's no reason to think why this series, which we say is close, why it wouldn't be close and why you wouldn't get a tie. So it seems like solid value.
The under hit on all 4 regular season games, also hit in game 1. It is plus 100 on the 5.5 goals line. So our picks for this game here in game 2 is Kyle Connor anytime goal plus 140. You could take a look at Mikko Rantanen, Winnipeg at minus 122 to tie this series up, and the under at plus 100. Timo, as we close it up here, any more stats for this series to take into consideration for people when they're looking at these lines?
Yeah, let's lean on our friends at Stathletes again. Thank you, Megan, for getting these stats sent over. Ahead of the series, when we were breaking this down, we looked at some of these stats that Stathletes tracks, some of the fancy stats, and Dallas, one of the keys to their success in the regular season were odd man rush opportunities. So for Dallas, that's their bread and butter. They need to get those odd man rushes. Winnipeg obviously needs to prevent them. As far as Winnipeg, what stood out in the Stathlete stats, they are one of the top teams in stretch passes, and they're also one of the top teams. Actually, this was after the first round of the playoffs in deflected and tipped shots. So those are ways that Winnipeg creates their shots and chances, and ways that and things that Dallas should look to shut down.
Closing it off here, Timo. Last thoughts as we wrap her up.
Looking forward to two good games here tonight. Yeah, it's hard to guess how this is going to go, right? I mean, we put some chips into the middle of the table on Florida earlier in the series. How are you feeling about that? You feeling like Florida still has a chance to come back? They're obviously both close games, should be close series. Do you have belief in Florida or Toronto right now? What's your gut say?
I'm still leaning the way of Florida, and maybe that's just recency bias with what we've seen Toronto in the playoffs. But man, have they been a surprise so far. If you're thinking about Florida, we talked about not very much value betting the individual games, but if you think Florida's coming back close to plus 200 in the market, plus 175 to come back and win the series. So I would say.
How about in 7? Like if you're specifically picking in Florida in 7, I mean that's like
Yeah.
more specific and probably more realistic for them to get 4 out of 5.
Plus 320 there. And I totally agree. I don't see this one being 6 games. I think Florida has a chance. If anything, it would be a 7 games. But man, have the Leafs put their stamp down, and I think Florida's got to have a bounce back tonight if the Leafs can trounce them. And really, even I'd say for Florida's sake, they got to have a big win tonight here. If the Leafs can keep it close, I think it's the Leafs series to lose right now.
Yeah. Well, if it goes to 7, they'll be nervous in Toronto. You got to like Florida if it does get to 7.
Right on. We'll be back tomorrow again, and more games to cover over the weekend. Daily episodes here on the Frozen Edge, and we are now on the X Realm Twitter. Follow us at Frozen Edge Pod. Instagram soon to be coming as well. Like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. We'll have full episodes getting posted on that Twitter, so plenty of space to find our content. I'll be tweeting out our favorite picks as well, so you can have opportunities to cash in and see where the analytics are trending on the betting market. He's Timo Seppa. I'm Casey Ditzel. Again, we'll be back tomorrow. Make sure to like and subscribe, and more to come here on the Frozen Edge.